at websites that get found, understanding them. And we bring this to you today because of COVID-19, hoping that we can help your businesses sell more online as stores are still closed. We also hope that these will be tools that you'll learn for the future after COVID. Today we have Ann Tracy back again. She's with Tracy Information Services, and she's a librarian by education and previous life, maybe.
Yeah.
As well as she worked with Enterprise Minnesota, which was there you got your glasses. Did you take the glass out?
I know, I found an old pair and I nearly did.
Ann also worked for Enterprise Minnesota. Many of you might have heard of. It's a agency, I think it's a public-private agency, maybe at that time it was public, that works with businesses individually to help them with their technology needs. So she's had a lot of experience working with businesses and helping them with sales. And then remember to sign up for one-on-one if you would like. We'll send out a registration for that. And Ann will provide about an hour's worth of time to help you with the area that you feel you want most help with. And this is brought to you by the Chisago County HRA EDA, as well as the Small Business Development Center. So they're helping with bringing these to you. So I guess that's all I have to say. We can get started, but we do like to do introductions. If you could let us know your name and the business that you're with. I'm Nancy Hoffman with the Chisago County HRA EDA, and I'll just look at the list over here and run down it. We have City of Lindstrom. There you are.
What'd she say?
She has to buy my coffee.
Oh, we can't hear her.
Oh, her. I don't know. I didn't catch it.
I read her lips.
Okay. Somebody's having a hard time.
She's not muted or anything.
No, you're not muted. It must be the mic. Although it looks fancy plugging out.
There.
Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Laura. I am with the City of Lindstrom. I am the receptionist / communications coordinator. So,
Thank
yeah,
you.
I'm
That
still in
makes it-
college also.
You sound like you're on public radio with that mic. It sounds good.
I know I can hear myself. It's weird.
All right, Jim.
I'm Jim Stein, Stein Insurance Agency in Lindstrom. I'm here with Megan and Krista. I'm also on the HRA EDA board with Nancy.
Our chair. Marlis.
Good morning, Marlis Dunn. I'm representing a lot of hats today. So I'm currently Vice President for Park Manufacturing in Cambridge. I'm also here representing Captain Sean in Lindstrom, the Chamber, and the Visitor Bureau.
Oh, many hats.
And in your free time?
All right, Sarah. Yours is still coming up as Nancy. You might
I was going to say, I'm also Nancy Hoffman. My name is Sarah Peterson. I work with Chisago County HRA EDA as well with Nancy.
And Lisa.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Ripp. I'm with the City of our city and the. Do you hear me, guys?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good.
My names all went out of order now, so great. Let's see. Carol?
Hi, I'm Carol Hamlin. I own the Oven Mitt in Lindstrom, and I don't know what else you need to know.
Thanks, Carol.
Good.
Renee?
Good morning. I'm Renee Dayball, and I own In the Moment Boutique in Lindstrom.
Thank you. And Luke just joined. We're just going around and stating our name and where we work, our business.
Luke joined, but he may have fallen off here.
Oh,
I don't see him right now. I'll keep an eye out for him rejoining.
and we have Marnstelz. Am I saying that? Marnstelz?
Marnie, is it?
Marnie?
It's Marnie.
Hi, Marnie.
Hi, I'm Marnie Stelz, and I have the Pine City Scrapbooking Company in Pine City, and also scrapbooking in the Pines Retreat Center in Pine City.
Okay, welcome. I think I got everybody. If Luke comes on, I guess we can ask him to say his name. All right, and Anne.
Great. Yes. And I'll thank Nancy. Thanks for introducing me. And I have been building websites or helping people build websites and do stuff online since 1995 when I was 4. So it's I've been doing it a long time, and I'm just going to kind of jump in as Nancy says. I do have a master's degree in library science, so creating websites that get found is my specialty. I don't have a graphic arts background. So it's my focus is really about the functionality and all of that sort of stuff. So that's really what we're going to take a look at today. You said when I worked at Enterprise Minnesota, it was Minnesota Technology, MTI, when I worked there. And my specialty is I would let the manufacturers, whatever colors they wanted to use was fine with me. And they always liked working with me because I had no judgment. And they're like, what if we do, apparently they were weird color combinations, and I thought, well, if you like them, probably your customers are gonna too. So I don't work away, wear that polka dotted vest, no problem here. So I'm gonna dive right in because we've got plenty of things. Do most people have that website checklist?
Yep.
I'm seeing some nods. Okay, because we'll kind of go through that, and I can see most of you, and if you want to let me see you, that'd be great, but just show of hands of the people that I can see. How many people have a website now? Everybody, thanks. Thanks, somebody from the side there. Okay, awesome. So I can see that almost everybody does. You don't need to. If you don't have one, don't think you're in the wrong place, but it will I'm going to go through with the assumption that you do, but you're at a point where you might want to make changes or at least know where you stand with certain things. So I'm going to start to screen share a little bit here. There we go. Oh, we're just going to go through it this way. That's fine. And one of the things, and if you feel like shouting out your answer, go ahead. But I would say that the first thing when I start with people who are redesigning a website or thinking about what they want to change in the website is, what do you like about your website now? And I say that in the same breath of, when we get a new house, we think of all the things we hate about our current house, and we forget that, oh, I forgot that I love those big windows. We buy a new house and we forgot about those big windows, and we miss all the things that we loved about the old site. I think we spend more time with our websites than anyone else, and some of you may be the person in your office who spends the time with the website, or you may not be. But I think it is, I just said, if people want to shout it out, that's great, but just know yourself. What I like about the website is we have great pictures of the products, or we're so good about answering all of the email that comes in. And then I also think, what do you think that needs help? As I said, when I work with manufacturers are looking for something totally different about their website than people who have shops. So, and this, I guess, is a little bit like, your own kids, that you bring your kid in and that they have chicken pox, and you get a new doctor and they say, I think I know what's wrong with, you probably already have a gauge. So with that in mind, we'll move forward and look at some of the specifics. So what we're going to look at this morning is, getting found by Google, answering questions for customers, adhering to website standards. You can kind of read this, and we'll sort of go through, kind of help you go through the checklist for each of this. And then we'll see if you can get found by, if you're not getting found by Google, we'll go through a couple of reasons why that might be and what you can do to change it. If you're not answering questions, you know, you get the drill. So we'll kind of jump right in. And I would actually even, you know, encourage you to toggle and try this now. Search for yourself on Google now. You know, search for yourself on Google using your business name. And can you find yourself or not? And then once you've done that, and there are two ways, the two is, we're not going to go in depth right now, but if you do a search, I think I always use my brother here as the example, but I'm going to search for my brother's car wash. So we can see that my brother is coming up in two ways. On the right-hand side of my screen, I can see that that is the, you know, the Google Place listings. So know whether, are you able to see yourself there? If so, have you claimed your place? And again, that is potentially a whole nother session, but it's nice for you to know. Are you showing up there on that right hand? What looks more like an ad, and have you claimed it? And then on the left, are you showing up? Years ago, I worked with somebody who said I think they were lawyers. They didn't have a website, and they didn't have a website because they didn't want to show up online. Unfortunately, when you search for them online, they didn't have a website, so that obviously didn't show up. But one of the first 3 things that returned was some big case that they had lost. You know, so it's also kind of nice to see what else is showing up there. And that's something maybe to do a little bit later. But here, in this, we can see the Yelp reviews, the MapQuest, different things like that. Once you see if you show up for your name, the next thing I would do is, using this example, I would search for car washes in St. Paul. You know, are you showing up when somebody is looking for you, somebody like you, when they're looking for your service or your products? I work with a lot of resorts. If you search for resort Minnesota and you come up number 1, you can be given the next session. You know, I mean, there are some terms that it's really hard to come up with. So sometimes you want to narrow that down by searching resort Minnesota Lindstrom. I'm going to stop sharing for a second because I think I'm going to launch a poll so you guys can let me know if you found yourself or not. See how this works. So just multiple choice. Were you able to find yourself? Were you able to find yourself searching like a customer?
Do I not get the poll because I'm an administrator?
Well, it looks like 7 out of 8 have done the poll, so maybe you don't.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at this. So nice, everybody was able to find themselves, so that's good. 5 were able to find, like, using like a customer. So I'm gonna going. And you know what I forget? I don't know if you guys can see the results as we go through now, but now you can. So okay. So that's good. Most people are able to be found, which is good. I'm going to share the screen again. Sorry, sometimes I think I'm a little smoother at this. There we go. Here. I'm just gonna say I live in St. Paul. We don't get as much sleep as we used to in St. Paul right now. In the Twin Cities, we just don't get as much sleep. And so I apologize, but I'm not, I did get to bed by about 12:30 last night, which is much earlier than I usually do this week, but maybe a little later than I usually do regularly. So, so I'm going to talk a little bit about search engines, and this is just the very high level search engine optimization. So the big thing is if you're being found, are you training Google to find you? Search engines like keywords. They want to know what you want to do. So one of the things to take a look at is make sure everybody is found, but you want to make sure that you have the name of your business and what you do in text on your homepage. There's something called a title tag. And if you have your description nowhere else, make sure it's on the title tag. And if you're using WordPress, they still call it the title. Depending on what kind of, if you build your own website, there will be a place where they will ask you for the title of your site. And that's where it makes sense to put those keywords. So you want to think of what words people will use to find you. Having those words in a lovely, lovely graphic is not helpful. It's got to be actually in text. So if you have, if you're a realtor, realtors, that's one where it's pretty competitive. Resorts are competitive. Realtors are competitive. You know, there are number of industries that are, if you build rubber ducks and you're the only one in Chisago County, you probably don't need to worry too much about being found. You will be found if people are looking for what you do. But if you do something where there are several other people who do it, think of the best keywords, probably 5 or 6 best keywords to describe what you do, and make sure you use that, especially on the home page, but really on all of the home pages. Working with a number of resorts, it's funny how you can make Minnesota an adjective. We love Minnesota summers. We love Minnesota lakes. You want something that reads well. You don't want it to look like, remember Max Headroom from, I think it was Coca-Cola or some ad, you don't want it to read like it's been written like a robot. You want something that flows off, but you need those keywords to make sure. And again, looking at the resorts, vacation is another thing you can use as an adjective, but using them in the meta tags, and as I said, I won't go too much into that. If somebody else builds your website, just make sure that that you ask them to put the keywords in the title tag. If you do it yourself, there's some place where they ask you. So if I look at, I'll use the Blandin on Broadband site here. Right here, this site is built with WordPress. This is the title. But the truth of the matter is, if I I'd have to open up the other browser. It also shows up in the when I do a search. That's what I'll do. This is the title too. We could do, if people are more interested in that search engine optimization, what I'm trying to stop myself is going down that rabbit hole, but making sure that you use good keywords on your website, especially the homepage, will help with search engine ranking. The other thing, yeah?
And I think you think you're sharing some pages that you're not.
Oh, am I not?
No, we're not seeing whatever, you're describing the pages that you're looking at, we're not seeing it.
What do you, thank you, Jim. Thank you very much. What are you?
Just says search engines like keywords,
Okay.
Popularity, freshness, and speed.
Thank you. You guys are not seeing what I am. Okay, so I'm going to just change my tactic a little bit. So it's, we can do a whole series on what to do, but just making sure that you're using your keywords and you're using them, when you describe your site. I worked with, there was a website, and God love them, the title was Everything But the Kitchen Sink. So the only thing they were showing up for was kitchen sink. You know, so it's not a time. I think I already maybe told this story on one of the other webinars, but I worked with somebody who did fertilizer, but they didn't want to call it fertilizer. I had to point out there was only one other term I knew for fertilizer, and I didn't think they wanted to put that on their website, but it was an offshoot of Cargill, and I had to convince them. There are tools that you can see the popularity of keywords. They wanted to say crop nutrients, and I said, okay, I can see that, you know, 1,000 people searched for fertilizer last month and 6 people searched for crop nutrients, and there are 6 of us in this room. You know, so using words that people know is important. The other thing is the popularity of the website. So you want people to link to you. This is where I think if you're a resort, if you're a realtor, if you're someplace where there's a lot of competition to be found on the web, then you want to take it to an extra degree. If you, as I said, if you have a restaurant, if you have something that is a little bit easier to be found, you know, there are, just by definition, there are only going to be so many restaurants in Lindstrom. You know, you're not competing with, if you're a realtor, you're competing with people in Chanhassen, Minneapolis, anywhere to some degree. If you're a resort and people are looking in this area, how many people will link to you? Google thinks that if a lot of people link to you, you must be good. It helps me to kind of personify it in that way. So it's one of the things is to ask different people to link to you, to make sure that you're listed on the Yelp and the Google Places and TripAdvisor and some of those directories, so that if getting found is very important to you, like that, looking for some of that freshness. How often the website is updated? Google's like websites that are updated on a regular basis. Here, so that's great. And it doesn't have to be a big update. Honestly, it could be Happy Tuesday, Happy Wednesday, Happy Thursday, and that would make a difference. The search engine would see that there's been a change. I can see that something, Nancy, I guess I'm going to ask if anybody enters or asks a question. If you let me know, that would be awesome, because I can't see that while I'm sharing the screen.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I planned to watch that, and I guess I missed that. We did have a statement going deeper into the SEO, and ads would be awesome if that could be another webinar.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, good.
And we'll think about that maybe for the next one. Is it better to set up links to others on my website, or to have others have my website linked?
Others to you. Others to you.
And you're talking on their website, or is it also other forms?
You know, that's a good question. On the website is great, but other forms works as well. I think on the website, so a link from a website is, I think you get a little bit more juice from that than you would a link from Facebook, but it's that changes on a regular basis. Getting a link from the New York Times is better than getting it from the Ann Tracy Journal of the Month. You know, the more popular the site that's linking to you is, the better that is. I think exchanging links is good. You used to see our favorite links. That's not that beneficial anymore. But what can be beneficial, so I write the Blandin on Broadband blog, and it's we have a couple, I'm gonna forget I'm from Minnesota, and I'm gonna say we have a couple hundred people every day come and look at broadband in Minnesota. So if you care about broadband, I get people who want to write articles for me all of the time. And the reason they want to write an article for me is a link from the Blandin on Broadband blog would be search engine gold for them. It's search engine gold for them if they sell routers. It's not search engine gold if they sell tennis shoes. You know, it's got to be on topic. So getting a mention in somebody. So if somebody in the community has a blog, and they come visit your restaurant and they write about you and link to you, and it's a blog that they maintain, that's going to be that's good juice for your site. That's good juice for your site. But a list of links, not so much. A link from somebody in Timbuktu, not so helpful, unless they actually visited you and they write something about you. So that, there you go. Now the freshness. So updating your website on a regular basis, and people will say, how often should I update it? Sometimes I just like to use the old joke, you know, you don't have to be faster than the bear. You just have to be faster than the person next to you. You don't have to update every day. You just have to update more often than the other realtor in town, which is kind of true. It's kind of not. If you have lunch specials and you have the ability to change that on your website every day, that's awesome. That's content that people want every day or even every week. Here are our specials for the week. That's great. But I think for most industries, doing it at least once a month is fantastic. Again, it really depends on what you have. You don't want to be making up news just to do it, if you know what I'm saying. But putting updates on a regular basis. But one thing that I will tell you is that, and I know because people have hired me to say, hey, could you help us rank better? And I will kind of warn them and say, I can do everything right, and we're never going to get to number one. I can do everything wrong, and you might bump up to. I mean, it's just because it's more of an art than a science. You know, it's like going to the doctor. Yeah, because I'm like a doctor. It's like going to the doctor, though. You know, we can do everything, and either that'll, you know, that'll cure your eczema or it won't. You know, I mean, there's a little bit of that to it. But everybody gets emails saying, I will help you with your search engine ranking. I can help you with this. Very often, once I make one change to your site, if you haven't changed your website in 5 years and I make one change, you will probably get a temporary bump up. You will increase ranking right away. So know that when you're talking to people like that. And that's great, but it's only great if you can kind of maintain that. But freshness of content is helpful. And then there's speed and technical issues. That's, you know, you want a website that comes up fairly quickly. Were there any other questions? Sorry, as I said, I can't really see the questions coming in when I'm sharing the screen.
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Of these, the one that you have the most control over and the one that I think is the easiest to deal with are the keywords. And what I would do there is think of the keywords that people are going to use to find you and make sure that you use those pretty often. I have, you know, people get whole degrees in this. I've distilled it to the top 4, but this is, you know, I've been doing this for a lot longer than I hate to admit, you know, 10, 20 years. And that speed issue is one that's come up more in the last, you know, 7 years. And there are other nuances that we can discuss for folks who really want to delve into it. But on a really top level, use those keywords, make sure your website is fresh, you know, and try to get people to link to you. Make sure it works. And I mean, I'm in the process of moving a community theater website now because we have a lot of issues with them, with the host. All right, so we're going to shift gears just a little bit to take a look at what your website. And I think, and you guys can take time to do this now or not, but while I'm talking, you can look at least a little bit at it. There are, make sure that you've got your address and your phone number. Unless for some reason you don't want your address. I worked with somebody and they were a massage therapist. And even though she worked out of her home, she said, I don't want to put my address. And because someone in the class may have the same problem, I said, well, you don't have to put your street address, but you have to at least tell people you're in St. Paul. Because it's that wrestle of, I understand you don't want to give your address on your business if you're a home-based business, but you want people who are looking for massage therapists in St. Paul to find you. So at least kind of give people the, I am amazed at how many people don't put the address, you know, where I've been my girls and I'm sure I've said we've done a lot of road trips with my dad. You know, if I'm from out of town and I see that looks like there's a great restaurant in Bloomington. There's a Bloomington in every darn state. You know, I need to know, is Bloomington, Indiana, or Bloomington, Minnesota, Bloomington, Nebraska? You know, look at it from the eyes of someone who doesn't know you. Use the email and the contact yourself and see how long it takes for somebody to get back to you. Make sure that it's working is what it really comes down to, because those are people that you could be losing. You know, if you have the ability, and as I said, to put your hours, I mean, now it's, since COVID, I have had calls from people I haven't talked to in years. Some of this church, God love them, I built their website. I haven't talked to them in 12 months, in 12 years. The people I spoke with are no longer there, but because of COVID, do you think you could change the homepage and say that we're doing everything online? You know, now is a time when people are trying to find that information out. But I think it's also super important now that if you have a customer-facing business, to put your hours, if you have special hours for COVID, and most of us do, being able to change something that because I've worked with a lot of manufacturers, maybe because I waited tables all through college, I know the questions that people are going to get for a restaurant. What time are you open? In the cities, do you serve liquor? What, is there parking? How do I get there? I know the top questions that somebody's going to get for a restaurant, but depending on your business, talk to the person who answers the phone in your office and ask them, what are the top questions? That's what I used to do with the manufacturers straight away. And then I would talk to the engineers, and on the homepage, we would have the questions that really, it was often the receptionist answered. And then click 3 times and I'm having the information that I'm getting from the engineers. But the people on the phone know the questions that you're getting. All right, I can give you guys a minute to look at this and do this, or if anybody has any questions. If we were all in the same room, what I would do is I would have you buddy up and look at each other's website. I won't make you do that now, because if we were in the same room, we might also be in the same room for 3 hours. It's easier to be in the same room with somebody than, Zoom, you can't even, you can't scratch your face because everybody's looking at you, or pick your nose. So it's very intense to be in this sort of thing. But what you could do is find, ask your mom to look at your site. Yeah. Ask my mom to look at your site. She will tell you everything. She'll tell you when you need a haircut. She'll tell you everything you need to know wrong with your website. But really have somebody who knows you, but doesn't work with you, look at your website. Are you answering their questions for them? That's kind of the best advice that I have right now. Set pause to see if anybody has any questions. Anyone? It is funny, just making sure that everything works, that you have all the information that you want there, that you, it never hurts to spell check. I'm trying to, somebody was a sandwich shop in town. And for a long time that we thought that it was $2 to add beef. Really embarrassing typo. Because the D and the S are really close together. So it wasn't add beef. But just having somebody go through, and that's where, as I said, having the person who corrects your grammar when you're talking, have them look at your website. But also just a number of different people. And I mean, as I've been part of big focus groups and user interface groups, give them a couple tasks. You want to order a cake for Mother's Day. Look at my website. Can you do it? What questions do you have that we don't answer? Give people a couple of tasks to do too while they're looking at it. and then give them a coupon for your service. And that's,
I have a quick question, Anne.
yeah.
Hi, this is Megan.
I was gonna say, I can't see who's talking, but that's all, yeah. Hi.
Yeah,
Megan.
so I guess like on our website, it seems like the SEO words are kind of behind the scenes typed a certain way.
Yep.
And if you were to look at our website, you can definitely identify the SEO words because they're either a link or they're like in bold.
Mhm.
So I guess my question is, if we put like any words on there, are those going to show up in an SEO search, or do they have to be kind of behind the scenes typed in a certain like way or code? For example, like we do have a blog, but I don't know if that helps our SEO at all because none of those words are kind of behind the scenes typed in this special format, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense to me. So I'll restate it a little bit. So what you've got is you probably have a bunch of meta tags. And in the meta tags is where all of your keywords are showing up. And that's great. The meta tags kind of fall in and out of favor over the years. Just at one time, they were the most important thing, and then they weren't. The one that stays in favor most often, I think it's still, you know, is the title tag. So I don't worry as much, and I know this is a little deep weeds for some folks, but I'll only be a minute. I don't worry as much about the description tag. I don't worry as much about the keyword tag, but that title tag I think is valuable. The keyword tag, I only think, don't get rid of it. And there are rules. They can only be so many characters long. You can't have keyword tags that include, 100 words or even really 25 words. You're looking at 10 words. But for me, having those 10 words is valuable because now you know what words to use on the front side of your page. Having words that you use in the code that aren't on the home page or aren't on the page, not just the whole page, but aren't on the page, that's not as valuable. Having keywords in the code helps dictate what you use on the page. That's kind of the gold standard. The gold standard. So I'm trying to think of so with a blog, can I ask what software you use for the website?
So our website, we pay monthly, and it's a service, I guess. They work with independent insurance agencies. So, no, I don't know we're not on like GoDaddy, or we didn't build our own website. It's kind of a canned website to some extent.
Okay.
We can go in and modify certain things and all of that. Which we've done a little bit of, but not a lot.
I've worked with a couple of real estate content management systems, and I think that can be great. If you have a blog, I would think that the title of the blog is probably also the title tag behind the scenes. And the nice thing about a blog, is am I remembering that you guys do real estate? Is that?
No, we're insurance.
We're insurance.
Insurance, I'm so sorry, insurance. So you could have one whole blog post about car insurance, and that's great. You could have the next one is all about life insurance, and that's great. The next one is my brother-in-law does death and disability. Who doesn't want a blog post on that? But you could do one on new drivers and insurance. I mean, the nice thing about doing something that's a blog, and you're generally always going to get the greatest bang for the greatest juice for your homepage, unless you have a product that's bigger than your company. So if my company is named Tracy Information Service, but I happen to have a product called Diet Coke, my Diet Coke page is probably going to be bigger than the Tracy Information page, but for the most part. But for every subsequent website, subsequent page, I'm going to look at this. I'm going to go to the next screen quickly just for this example. So here I have kind of map out. We've got the home, and you can kind of see we've got it's like a family tree, but essentially that could be the structure of a website. This home page is inherently where you're going to get the greatest power for your search engines. Unless, as I said, home is Tracy Info and menu is Diet Coke. If you have a product that surpasses the brand surpasses the brand of the business. Hope that makes sense. But for each of these pages, each page is an opportunity for new search engine optimization. So your homepage, if you do insurance is hard because you probably do a couple different kinds of insurance. You know, so it's hard to optimize for auto and life and house and, you know, all of the home. But you could have a whole section, this whole menu section could be on home, or I guess to do an example would be easier for me to say to be on automobile. And then lunch or a blog post could be on, as I said, all of the, I would love a blog post on insurance and student drivers who are in college. What do you do with that sort of thing? You know, so when you get down to some of those blog posts, that's what we call the long tail searching. So I would think what questions might people have? How can we reach people? And honestly, I finally cut my kid I have 3 kids. One of them has a driver's license. The other one will never have a driver's license. The one who has a driver's license has driven 5 times since she's gotten her driver's license. She now lives in Canada. So, you know, there are people like me who are asking, what about when your kid goes to college, do you still have to pay for insurance? You know, so that's a Google search that I'm going to do. If I search for that and you guys come up first, that's a great way to reach a new customer by providing the information that they want. And with the blog post, the title of that article will likely also be that title tag. I'm sorry, that feels like a very long answer. I hope that was helpful. It's the gold standard is to have the tagging behind it and the words in front of it. But the most important thing is to have the words where people can see them too. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. I hope that made enough sense for other people too, because it's a pretty, you know, it's a pretty regular question. It's a pretty standard question. So now I always think, you know, we've kind of thought, you've been thinking about what do the customers want to know, and I think it depends, because I'm going to ask this in a couple of the slides. I think one of the things you want to think, I'll stop right now and say, think about how much time do you want to spend in your website? Do you want to spend enough time where you're writing blogs and some of that? What I've sort of been thinking about up until now is people where you have a website and you could just leave it. But the first question when I start working with somebody is, how much time on an ongoing basis do you want to spend on your website or your social media channels? And some people are like, well, you know, I kind of like to write, so I might do a blog or 2. This is just talking with somebody the other day who said that, and now it's been 6 months, and she said her son's so mad at her because she told me and she told him, I swear to God, I'm going to write some blog posts. But I think you need to be obvious, you know, honest with yourself, because I will build a website differently if somebody is interested. I don't even want to say willing. You have to be interested in making updates on a regular basis, because we're all so busy. Now, I'm busy. I easily write 150 articles a month on various topics. At least 2/3 of those will be on Broadband, because that's a huge part of what I do. But I can write in my sleep. I like to write. It's something that I really enjoy. There are some people I work with, if you like to do videos, it can be very easy to do a video and embed it into your website too. But you got to think about how much time do you want to do it. So now I'll go back to this. You think about all the things that your customer, your potential customer might want. Here, a couple weeks ago, I built a website for a drummer in town. He's a friend of mine. I have a radio show that I interview musicians, and I just got talking to this guy, and he's like, I'll do it. But then he was like, I don't know I'm a drummer. I don't have any music my own. He's one of the musicians I know who's going absolutely bonkers right now because he's like, even I can only listen to myself drum for so long. But he turned out what he really wanted, and I kind of knew this after interviewing him. I'm like, you're not looking to necessarily sell your music. That wasn't what he wanted his website for. I mean, he wanted to find other people to make music with. So, well, that's going to change how we do your website entirely. Now we're going to talk about projects that you're on. So it's a matter of thinking about who do you want to reach? And from obviously, I mean, we're all in business. Anything that leads us to a customer or a sale is a good thing, but also we might be looking for potential partners. Also, maybe we're in a business where we write a lot of different grants. So we want to make sure that we have our resume and some of the things that you need more if you write grants. You know, so think about all of that. What can you do? And then I think taking a look at list of pages. There was one of the really weird things that I did a long time ago is, do you remember when Yahoo was a directory? And what they had now is more of a search engine, it's more of a business tool, but they used to have a huge directory of anything that you could find on the web. Now it's not, there's something called the Open Project Directory. I guess Wikipedia is a little bit like it, but I created a local directory of websites for Minnesota. I worked in an office. Suddenly they gave me this huge office. I had Post-it notes, and I created a huge infrastructure similar to what we're looking at here with that map out pages. All over this wall, I had, so for pets, pets, and I had turtles and cats and dogs and whatever else, all of those sort of things. That's a little bit what you want to do when you start to map out your website. You can't have everything on the homepage. You just can't. You want that website to be pretty easy to read, to point people to the information that they're going to want right away. And for 90% of the people, that's, address, phone number, especially if you have a Main Street shop. I'm 90% of the people that I'm talking to here, you want that phone number or a click to buy. But people are happy to click further to get to more information. It's 20 years ago, that was not true. They said, don't use as few clicks as possible, which meant you ended up with web pages that were this long, and now I know several of us on the phone call, we're fighting the good fight to get everybody good broadband. But when it comes to website, most of us have a website these days where we're happy to click and things come up. So coming up with something that makes sense, rather than having every menu on your homepage, click where people can get to the menus, and then click where they can get to lunch, click where they can get to dinner. People are generally okay with that. What you want to do when it comes to that is you want people to be able to see all of their options right away, or you want to use options that people recognize. So it's, you think about the navigation across the top of a website, it's usually like 5 to 10 items, depending on how short those terms are. But if people don't understand the vocabulary, or they don't understand what you have, you want to give them fewer options. So with insurance, I probably know less than the average bear about insurance. Because I still ask my dad to look at all that stuff. But that's where you want, auto, home, the liability. You want to make sure that there are just a few options. Maybe what it is residential and business. And I go, okay, I know where to go. The fewer items that you use from that perspective, the easier it is on the end person. But you want to make sure that those are clear, like business or residential. That's a good start, okay? Because I'm looking at residential, and as you go down further, people get to more information. But you can use a large list of items if it's things that people recognize. The easiest example is states. I'm okay looking at a list of 50 things if those 50 things are states. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the rule. You just want to make sure that the path is obvious. And that's where I think that navigation, having a navigation that's clear on each page makes sense. I see something popping up. Does that mean somebody has a?
Yeah, I had a question on blogs. Is now a good time to ask?
Sure.
Okay, so it's gonna feel like a silly question and show my ignorance, but I truly am ignorant when it comes to websites.
No.
I've never built one. I've always seen people that do all this stuff, and now we're trying to figure out all this little Captain Sean stuff. So blogs, I get the concept. When you say you write 150 blogs, is that something you're actually doing on your website, or are these blogs out somewhere else and connecting?
Yes, and yes. So I write the Blandin on Broadband blog. That is a blog of that's a news blog. So that's different. That's going to take care of a huge portion of those. But I've written blogs on all different. So I worked with a group of realtors where and what I would say is, give me bullet points and I'll write a blog for you. So if you don't like to writing, I'll say right now, you can, if you use a service, like Jim's group, you probably have a group and they probably have articles that you're able to choose from so you can buy into a system where they say, okay, we will include 2 blog articles a month for whatever, and those tend to be industry specific. So they build all websites related to real estate. They build all websites related to insurance or resorts or, all these different things. A lot of professional services have that option where you can kind of get these canned but modified articles if you want them. Or you can hire somebody to do them, or you can write them yourself. And when it comes to adding the blogs, I think just having anything that's of value to your customer or your potential customer. So for some people, I just read, it's like having a newsletter. So some businesses have newsletters that they send out on a regular basis. Some people just have, news alerts that they send out. And I'm thinking about, you can do them online too, but I'm just thinking about some businesses have always, if you have a coffee shop or a restaurant or something, even 10 years ago, you might have printed something out and put it there and people can read about what's going on in the community. So to even look at that example, if you were a coffee shop, you are well placed to write about the community because that really is a community space. So if I owned a coffee shop and suddenly people couldn't really spend time, and COVID showed up, I might stay in touch with my customers through an online, through a blog or a newsletter where I just said, oh, and congratulations to our seniors. And here's a list of the seniors, the 2020 seniors who've ever worked at our shop, or congratulations to so-and-so who's the valedictorian. And we see that the Johnsons have put out their swimming pool. The people across the street from me, I can hear those kids screaming all day long, and I just love it. They have a new pool. But it is, so it doesn't have to be product specific. It depends on what your role is. I just read in Jacobson Community Center, and they just put Wi-Fi in it, and they wrote an article that was really way more Star Trek forward than most articles on Wi-Fi. It was awesome, So it's a chance to, if you have the time and the ability to write those articles yourself, it's really a chance to show your personality.
So I guess I'm thinking about the chamber and I'm thinking about the visitor bureau, where we're constantly asking as a board, what can we do to help promote businesses on our main streets? So as a board member, I'm just throwing an example. I could go out, write something really cool about a business on Main Street, slap it on either the chamber or the visitor bureau website, and that is a blog that will help keyword searching for Main Street. Am I right? Am I getting this okay?
Yes, and what's even better, you talk about, you talk about the oven mitt. and you mention the oven mitt and you link to their website, that's great for them. It's great for you.
Okay.
That's kind of the, yeah, that, I mean, that's an awesome thing to do. I mean, I think that that's what you could even do, depending, you could ask your members, send us an article, send us news, and we'll post it for you. Depending on right now, who you think has the most time. I mean, obviously it would take time of yours to do it, but I'm often in that position where I can either ask someone to write the article and send it to me, or I can just write it myself. And if I give those options, I'm going to write it myself every time because it's what I do. I mean, you know what in the same way, if I have to choose between fixing my own carburetor or asking somebody else, I'm going to ask somebody else every day of the week. You know, I mean, it's just appreciating what it is that you do. And the other thing you could do is go visit them, a 2-minute video with your phone. You can upload that to YouTube, put it on your website, and that, you know, so if going out to meet people to talk to them, but linking to their website, including a little description on that video, these are all things, you know, those are great for you. It's fresh content for you. Just talking about where they are and who they are, that's again, it's good content for you, it's good content for them. And anybody can kind of come up with those sort of partnerships. So I gave a presentation to a bunch of wedding industry folks one time. And I think that they kind of, you know, you take a look at the website, The Knot, you know, they're smart about that. If you're going to buy a wedding dress, you're probably going to be buying a wedding cake soon too. So if you sell wedding dresses, well, if you go in to buy a wedding dress, here they have brochures for wedding cakes, and it's been too long now, you know, other wedding things, you know, but the online version of that would be that your wedding, if I owned a wedding dress company, I would do a blog post with every bride that let me show a picture of what she looked like in her dress. Congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Murphy. Doesn't she look beautiful in the dress? She got married, and I would give the town so that if anybody's looking for a dress in, you know, Sheboygan, they may find the dress that I sold them. And then I'd be saying, and they worked with such and such a cake company, you know, and kind of list everything there. I would ask the cake people to say, I might say, I wrote about you. Will you mention this in your social media? You know, that's for people who really have the time to start to say, how can I make the most of this website? How can I make the most of this website? And if you're in that position and you have partners, if they link to your content, all the better for you. All the better. It's going to help with the search engine ranking, but also if I cannot name one a tuxedo. I couldn't name one groom related thing, but if the tuxedo shop mentions you because you had a picture of their tuxedo from so-and-so's wedding, you know, you're just going to reach more people. And the beauty of something like that is if I post a picture of Mary and Jim in their wedding, they may share it on Facebook. I mean, that's that viral stuff, you know. And if Mary and Jim got married, probably their friends, you know, Bobby and Sue are going to get married in the next year too. I mean, you know what I mean? It's that kind of, so thinking about how can I make that work for me? The nirvana of it, I always think, is when you create, and this will happen more with a blog post than your website because you're able to get more personal, but with the blog post, that's where you have the potential of writing something that goes viral. But even if it, you know, going viral is kind of, you know, aiming for the bleachers, even if you get something that's a base hit out of that, you know, a base hits win games, you know. I say that like I understand sports, but you know, I do understand that much. And somebody tell my dad I said that, you know, but trying to think about, you know, what can I write that will be valuable for my readers, but also will be something that they will want to share. And that's where I've said anybody in a community now that is in a position to lift up their high school seniors, God love them, those high school seniors deserve anything that they can get right now. But that is something that people will share. Like you know, Jenny worked here every summer since she was 15. She just graduated. She's looking for a job, or she's going to start at the U of M. We're so proud of her, blah, blah. You know, I don't mean blah, 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 but blah, blah, blah. And you make that your blog post. Well, Jenny's family's going to share it. Jenny's grandma's going to see it. Jenny's cousins are going to see it. You know, they will have a warm and fuzzy feeling about you that will get shared. Or, you know, or the flip side is we're finally open for lunch. We set up our picnic tables, come in and get a free cookie. You know, that's the kind of thing that gets shared. Things get shared for different reasons, and different businesses are in a different position for that. But I think the blog posts are good for that too. I'm stopping myself because you guys don't even know how long I could talk about blog posts. I'm going to stop until somebody says, go on.
I do have another question, Anne. I was not.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Nancy.
A lot of it, it's off of the topic. Does adding product to my online store count as an update, or do I have to change other content?
The tricky question is whether you use a third party. When someone goes to your store, does the address change? Do you use a third party for something like that? That's probably enough. If there's a way that you add a product and it automatically shows up, even if it's just like a ticker tape on the homepage, that'd be best case scenario, so that you've got a change on that homepage as well as the new product. But the new product will probably help. It just depends a little bit on how that site is developed. Sometimes
the address is still the same. It just still say online store at the end of it, you know, or whatever page you're on.
I think that you'll still see it, you know what I'm saying? It's sometimes you move to an entirely new server because you need your server. Right. That's what I'm really getting to. So I think that you'll probably still get a boost for that if there's a way to mention that on the home site too. And all you would need to do would be, you know, new slippers, new slippers, pink in a picture. That would be great, because any change on the homepage would be.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can make a little heading saying new, and then just kind of change that.
And that's, yeah, if you've got the time to do that, that would be awesome. And that's one of the nice thing about with writing blogs, especially if you use something like WordPress, Typeface. I'm trying to think of other blog software that's out there. I think Squarespace does this. I don't know it as well, where every time you write a blog, the headline will appear on the homepage. Like, that's great. That's great. So also looking into automating that new product listing on your homepage, that might be worth your time. That all depends on what service you're using to do it.
Right.
Yeah. If you have a new product, I always think if you have like genuine content to share it. Share the heck out of it. Now people want to know. And people are online now because it's their world for a while. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can think of. So, so I was building the drummer website, and I had to laugh because I said I will find out everything. You know, another word for a librarian is just like a hopeful stalker. I'm like, no worries, Ian, I'll find everything out about you. And he's like, you weren't joking. You know, you've been following me. And I'm like, oh no, I could just find everything about you. One of the things that even he noticed, and I did this very quickly for him, you know, I think the price of admission here was like, next time you guys play live, I want free tickets and free beer. I mean, so it's, you know, it's very quickly. He looked, and it was very much the first draft. I just wanted to, and I had homepage, music, contact, like current projects, something like this. And even though he thought he knew nothing about websites, he was like, shouldn't the contact be the last thing that you list? And I was like, yes. It was about a minute before he had said that, and we were doing a Zoom call, and I was like, oh, I need to move that to the end of the list. And I'll take a little bit look at some of the website standards, more technical standards in a second, but it's always helpful to look at what your competitors are doing, because you'll find out if there are some industry standards that make sense. As I said, I've worked with a lot of manufacturers, and that's, you know what it is that's where I really needed to see what the standards were for my inherent knowledge of journal squirreling is very limited. So I had to go to see how people talk about this. But yeah, a standard is that, I mean, it's just unspoken. It's just how people do it. But my dad, who had a software development company, always says, you do things the regular way. And as much as possible, I think you want to do things the regular way. If everybody else calls it fertilizer, call it fertilizer. You know, so that's, and the same with that structure. Okay, I'm going to look at the next. All right, so this kind of gets into some of the standards. The navigation on every page. Sometimes I see websites that don't have the navigation on every page, and you find yourself on a page and it doesn't take long before you can't remember who this is, you can't remember what you're looking at, and you don't, obviously I know how to use the back button, but at a certain point, you know, so just having a structure. I don't care if this is because I'm not a graphic artist. So there's a graphic artist who's ready to cyber smack me in the head for saying this, but I don't care if your homepage is yellow, the next page is blue, the next page is red. So long as you've got the navigation, the usability that I can say, okay, I want to go back to the homepage. You know, just it's your map. I don't want to go to a new town without having a map. You know, it's to use it, you know, thinking back to being when I was a librarian, you cataloged things for when people wanted to find them, or you put them on a shelf where people could browse. Well, browsing is one thing when it's physically in front of you, but browsing when you've got to click in lots of different directions is frustrating. Here's a funny thing about a privacy policy. If you want people to contact you, if you want people to sign up for a newsletter, either through the mail, through the US mail, or through email, people will check to see if you have a privacy policy, but they will rarely read it. That's not me saying you should be sneaky in your privacy policy, but there are lots of templates. So if you do anything where people interact with you online, having a sitemap, and there are a couple of kind of technical sitemaps that you can have, but I think in a sitemap, I'm going to go back to this, is kind of what we have on the right here. But you could also just list that out like an outline. If you do list that out like an outline, that makes it easier for the search engines. And it's like a privacy policy page. It's not something that you don't add it in your top navigation. It's one of the utility links, and the utility links usually are the privacy policy, the sitemap, maybe a contact us, the copyright, usually at the bottom. Just having those links there can be helpful. The copyright, a copyright that you remember to update. There's nothing better than seeing a copyright 2002 on a website, make you wonder if that business is still around. Checking to make sure that the URL will work with and without the www. There are some technical reasons that you want to make sure of that, but also if people see your email address and they're going to try to guess, it's pretty easy to fix. I'm not going to go into it, but it's pretty easy to fix if it doesn't work. It's just a small, ADA accessible. And I'm going to cheat and see if you can. There are websites, and I have the address, I hope right here. Nope. There are some, I will include, when I write up the notes from today and the video and the PowerPoint, I'll share that. There are some tools where you can put in your address and it will tell you if you're, what it is that people who are using Speak Aloud or accessible software to access your site will be able to read your site. And the big keys with that, and is not to convey information in graphic only. So that's one thing that a lot of people do, and this helps with search engine optimizations too. You have a beautiful logo and you use it. If you have a beautiful logo, obviously you should use it. Make sure that you use something called an alt tag. so that if somebody uses Speak Loud software, they'll be able to see logo for Johnson & Johnson. You know, also, if you have a beautiful logo, you want to make sure that you type out the name of your company a couple places on the homepage too. Because the search engine will be able to read that alt tag, but you won't get as much credit as having it in the text. But just making sure, and I think it's, there are, you know, if you're a government entity, there are some rules around ADA, but just being aware of it, I think creating a whole site that's very accessible, it can be a little expensive, but making sure that you're doing kind of best effort is not. And just running a tool will help you see that. I will, as I said, I'll include that tool. It's just something to be aware of. Unless you have a client, you know, unless you have a clientele that is really going to be, requires ADA accessibility. So years ago was the first time I saw somebody use that Speak Aloud, where they speak everything that's on the screen. If you get a chance to see that, it's fascinating. And then it helps you a ton with saying, oh, okay, that's why that makes sense. Now we're kind of, I'm happy to talk about all of these things. We've gone through a lot of the things that I want to make sure that we did, but for extra credit, and we've talked a little bit about this already with some of it is, and this gets down to how much time do you want to spend on this? If you have a website and you just want to have a website, I think the best thing, like, I just want to have a website. I just want to make sure people are, know that we're legit. I know people can find us. There are a lot of reasons that people are like, I just want it there. I never want to touch it again. If you're in that camp, and there's nothing wrong with being in that, you know, that we're busy. I get that. You just want to make sure that you are getting any contact that people are, you're getting any email that people are sending through there, that the information is correct, especially the hours. There's nothing that makes me crazier than the website said it was open and you're not open. You know, if it's the middle of a thunderstorm, or, you know, if a tornado's coming through town, I understand. But if it's a day like today, you know, make sure that information is right. Make sure everything is still working. Make sure that the pricing is correct. Especially if you had a website built 7 years ago and you change your pricing every 2 years, you don't want people coming in thinking that the burger is going to be $8 and now it's $12. I mean, you know, that, especially, you know, they've ordered 12 of these because they do catering, and it, you know, suddenly it's 40, you know, $50 more. You know, you want to make sure all of the information is. This extra credit stuff is some of the stuff we've been talking a little bit. This is if you have the time and inclination to be doing more. I think, you know, are you telling your story online? So I work with a theater, Memorial Theater in Dawson, Minnesota, which is Western Minnesota, kind of right before you get to North Dakota. They're there. Turns out their season will not be happening this year. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get old pictures and say what they're doing, and I think that will be fun. But recognize what your story is. That's how you're gonna sort of attract new people and get people online. I can see that there's, I don't know if there are people out. I can see that there might be a question, but I can't see the question from where I sit. Sorry, Nancy. I'll keep talking. You know, so think about how much of your story, or as I said, if it's your high school senior story, if it's your customer story, if it's your member story, what stories would you like to tell people online? That's a great way to kind of build a following. One of there's a brewery in town, Dangerous Man Brewery. One of the things is they get collections of volunteers. So so last week I planted trees for Dangerous Man, and then I got a beer as big as my head at the end of the I hope I like that beer. But then they'll post pictures about it. It kind of tells the story about how they're community focused, and it gave me an excuse to kind of skip work for a morning and be out in the woods. It's perfect. How can you keep in contact with people? Invite them. If you have a blog, depending on how it's created, you can have people subscribe to the blog. So if If you have any more questions, I now thanks to Jim, I realized that I can't show you an example of it, so I won't try. But if you have a blog, people should be able to sign up to get notification when there's a new article. If you're in a boat where you think that should be true and it's not working out for you, let me know and I'll take a look. A big thing is, can people share your information? You know, when you're reading a news article and at the bottom it will say click to share on Facebook, on Twitter, through email, Reddit, a couple of different options. Make sure that people can share your information easily. That's a gift. That's a gift when you have something that people want to share and put on their social media. You can't buy that kind of earned marketing, especially if you're community focused. I mean, that's like sitting at the diner and hearing somebody behind you say nice things about you. There's nothing beats that. Think also, how can people interact with you? And that may be through the website, through email, through whatever. It may be that you're bringing in some social media channels. For years it was true, and now it's been so long since I've been on an airplane. You want to get it through to some of the local, you want to get it through to Delta, tweet them. If you're really mad at the people at Delta Airlines, if you tweet them, they will tweet you back. And sometimes it helps. Much faster than calling, much faster than, they have a team that's on it. They have a team that's on it. So knowing how people can interact with you is, the other thing is, if you are creating, if you're using the blogs, which I think that's a perfect way to, I nearly included this picture and then I didn't, and now I'm mad at myself, but I think that the blogs can be a cornerstone of a marketing plan. And you can generally have that set up so once you do a blog, it will automatically go onto Twitter. You have to have a Twitter account. It'll automatically go to your Facebook page. Again, you have to have a Facebook account. It will automatically go to LinkedIn. It will automatically go to, and with social media, I'm not usually a fan of post one message and it goes to 5 places, except if it's an article that you've written. You know, so with the Blandin on Broadband blog, all about rural broadband, whenever I post something there, it automatically goes to about 3 or 4 different places. And that makes me seem very, very active on LinkedIn, whereas I'm not, you know, but making that be the cornerstone. I think what's helpful, with broadband, it's a different story because it's very news focused. So whatever's happening today, that's what I write about. But when I've worked with publishers, when I've worked with other businesses, having a calendar of an editorial calendar has been super helpful. So we sort of say, okay, May is Mother's Day, May is Mental Health Month, May is fishing opener, May is, you know, one of those things is going to be probably apt to your business. So I know that in May we're going to write about fishing opener. June, graduation, people are done with school. My birthday's in June. You know, a lot of important things that you can write about. You know, but think about some of these things. Then July, vacations, 4th of July. You know, so coming up with things, and there may be things that are just calendar based, that you know that Father's Day is in June, and you have something that people would like to share with their fathers, so you know you're gonna, that way you know you have some ideas for what you could post for each month. Now the funny truth of the matter is that when I have done this, I use that calendar about 20% of the time, but I will tell you those 20% I was happy to have, because a huge part about writing blogs, writing blog posts or doing other updates is knowing what you're going to write about. I learned that I was the librarian at St. Kate's Library, and people would come in because they had to write a paper. And forever, the hardest part about writing a paper was figuring out what you were going to write about. Yeah, and that's true, I think, with some of the social stuff too, is once you have that list of things that you can write about, follow it or not, but at least you've got a month of ideas. Say, oh, it's November, we're going to write about Thanksgiving, or isn't that when the World Series is? No, we're going to write about baseball. It's funny because I can come up with some, And you can find calendars of weird holidays, and sometimes it's the weird holidays that are the most fun. Oh, it's National Twinkie Day, you know. Don't we all love Hostess Twinkie? I mean, you know, but having some of those things, as well as being open. The reason that I love online stuff so much is because you can do it right away. You can make a change. If something exciting comes up, you can, you know, if the person who has been working at your shop since high school elopes tomorrow, you can congratulate her on Facebook right away. You don't have to work to print it out. You don't have to, you know, you can do some of that spur of the moment stuff. But as I said, it also is helpful to have some planning. I'm gonna, because I think questions are gonna come up, I'm gonna stop sharing. Oh, no.
Actually, I was just gonna chime in and say these things that you see popping up, people are just having to leave. So
Oh, okay.
we lost Marlis and then the gal from Lindstrom.
Okay.
Don't know her name.
Laura?
Oh, yes, that sounds about right.
Okay. So that, and we're kind of down to like the last 5 minutes. So I am happy if anybody has any questions or has any.
Did you want to do a poll for the next?
I had a question. Sorry, I was muted.
Well, it's funny because I thought, well, I wonder, is she muted? Is she, yeah, is Marnie muted? I thought she was saying something. You may have been saying something to somebody. So yes, please.
I'm still not used to this. I have had trouble. I feel like I'm stagnant in my reach. Like, I feel like through the COVID, we loaded all of our product online. And right now, I think it's doing really good, but I feel like it's a lot of, I hate to say this, but like sympathy purchases. Like, these are my regular people, you know, which is wonderful.
Right.
But I really need to reach like out of state. And I feel like I've got, you know, I'm sending things a little bit to New York and a little bit to Illinois and a little bit to California, but I don't know how to get farther. Like,
remind me of give me a couple of examples of products.
We have a scrapbook store. So we're selling rubber stamps, paper, stickers, adhesive, cardstock.
Do you have a Facebook page? Or
yeah, and that is, I feel like I'm stuck too at like 5,300 followers, and I feel like I do a little like giveaway and we'll get like 20, 25, you know, maybe 30 new followers, but I just feel like we're so stuck. And I know I don't know how to get farther out of Minnesota than I am now.
I mean, often, and you may have tried all of this, but off the top of my head, I would invite people to send examples of what they've done, have a contest of, you know, are you already doing some of that, you know?
No, I was just actually writing something as you were talking, things kind of popped into my head. Like right now we're sending out a ton of product that we did pre-orders for. And I thought, oh, show me your package pictures and, you know, things like that. That's a great idea.
Well, and I would just to totally, if you could set up a way where you get it down to the top 5 graduation scrapbook layouts or whatever, you know, whatever makes sense for you, and then have where people can vote on their favorite.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
And then you can probably even set it up where people have to follow your Facebook page before they vote.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah. Now, one of those things is I think that can turn people off or not. I mean, so wrestle with that, the details of it. But that way, I'm getting my sister in Chicago to vote for me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, I got friends in Ireland I can get to vote for me. I got that, you know, have your, especially if you're getting sympathy orders, and God, I know what you're saying.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've made some myself.
Right.
You know,
me too.
You know, I listen to a lot of music.
Restaurants.
Well, you know, I don't really enjoy an online concert, but I've given a lot of money to a lot of online concerts. You know, I mean, and it's what we do as a community. Right. It's what we do as a community. But the other thing that those people can do for you right now is they can share the word about what you're doing. So finding a way where they can do it either through a contest or something fun like that, or you know, a picture of you and a buddy in a scrapbook and you both win something, you know, or think of, I mean, they want to help you. They want to help you. So build upon that in ways that they have things that they can share and invite their cousins.
Exactly.
Do.
Good idea, right?
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that.
So there's my quick off the hip.
Right. Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna show the poll and people can think about if they have other questions. All right, hopefully. It is funny. It seems, on the one hand, it seems like we spend some whole days in Zoom, and in the other, it still is new. We're like, did that work? Can you guys see it? Did that?
Yeah, I'm not seeing the poll because.
Because you're a host. Yeah.
No, I think it's because Sarah and I are they're both showing up as me, and so it only is allowing.
Oh.
So.
Yeah, so no voting twice on that one.
Right. And so I don't see it at all. So you have to tell me.
Well, and I'll share the results at 30 seconds, 30 seconds. I watch a lot of cooking shows. I could start the countdown. My kids love that. I don't cook at all, but I can watch Chopped forever. 4 to 5. Okay, we're all in polling. Share results. Okay, Facebook. Can you see those? The results?
No, I can't. A couple of people also talked about SEOs a little
Yeah,
more.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, because I maybe listed that twice. I know how I did that. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing results. I don't know. All right, I'm going to stop. The tricky thing about it is Nancy kind of points out, well, Nancy and I see different things than everybody else sees.
But I don't see the poll.
No, not anymore. No, I don't know.
No, not at all. I didn't see it at all.
And I see it the whole time. So anyways, that we can follow up with the search engine or with Facebook was the overwhelming winner with that poll. So I don't know if that's what and I'll give folks, I mean, it's 9:30. I'm an email away. If anybody has any burning question now, speak now or wait 2 weeks.
Yep, and we were thinking of going out 2 weeks again. That gives us a little more time in between and going back to Wednesday morning. So that would be June 17th.
Yes.
Okay. And all these are also on our website if you wanted to go back and review anything.
And I will have I'm going to make myself a note to have the ADA link. I will have this written up soon. Good. Well, thank you. I always, as I said, I'm not getting as much sleep in St. Paul as I used to because we have a lot of action going on at night. But it's so much fun to hear about everybody's business, and I thank you all for sharing your stories. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Be safe.
See you next week or 2 weeks. Sorry, 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Thank you. Bye.